Yes, we just came up with a new character because of our friend Barry, who's up in HR. He's been out. We're just saying, golly, I haven't seen Barry in like 2 weeks. He's on jury duty. And he's in a case. I mean, he is in a case.
Yeah.
And he came in once. I did see him once. And he said, I can't talk about the case. And of course, I'm sitting here like, what's the case? I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Man. What? Barry does this thing. I just told Chris Demm, I remember exactly what I was doing 29 years ago today. And well, it was yesterday. I knew I was at the fair. We have a fair here in town here in the autumn, and I knew exactly where I was. I was calling the pig races.
I remember those.
You remember the pig races?
Mm-hmm.
And Chris Demm said, how do you remember what you were doing? And the reason is 29 years ago yesterday, I left the pig races at the fair and stopped and got gas, and a guy came rushing out of the gas station and said, Chris, the verdict is in on the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, that's why you know.
That's right. So it's 29 years ago. They're going to announce it tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And I was like, golly, run and tell your friends. The verdict is in. The verdict is in. And so
my day just got better.
Right. So, and I was like,
riding on the high of the pig race adrenaline.
And when the guy who came out, who I don't know, he's anonymous to me to this day, who came out and said, Chris, the verdict is in. And we both were sitting there chatting, pumping our gas. And I said, boy, they're back early. You know that means guilty. And the other guy's like, you darn right. They put him away. He is guilty as sin. And that's what they're going to say tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Well, of course, that led to one of my biggest blunders of all time.
And one of my favorite moments of all time.
When
it's a multimedia blunder, really, is what it was.
It was. BB Shea didn't know about that until recently. I told him the video cameras came in here from the local news to film
live reactions.
And so we were on the radio station, and we stayed, different show at that time, but we stayed late. We stayed 3 hours late to watch the verdict. Chris Demm said at the time, waste of your time. Total waste. He was on a different show. Chris Demm came to me and said, are y'all staying on to 1 o'clock? I said, oh, yeah. We're covering it stem to stern. And he goes, what a waste. No one will care.
That guy hates everything.
Everybody else will be, of course, the news will be all over it. This is the biggest trial of all time.
Yeah.
And so, 29 years ago today, we stayed until 1 o'clock. Local news team was here filming our reaction to the verdict.
There was a camera inches from your face.
That's right.
As the foreman read the verdict.
Yeah.
We, Orenthal James Simpson, find the defendant not guilty.
And, of course, my mouth drops open, and I said, no, he did it. You know, here I am just tore up about it. And we continue on, and I just slump to the end of the hallway, drive home. I bet I got 3 sandwiches at Chick-fil-A that day. You know I did.
Eat your feelings.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm an emotional eater. We know that. So I get home that night, 6 o'clock news comes on. I was like, well, let's watch and see what happens. And of course, they juxtapose. They say, this was a battle drawn along racial lines, a low point in America. And they show my big
just
white
how
puffy
split this country can be.
Yeah. There's my puffy white face. No.
Representing the whites.
Yeah.
Here's a slack-jawed disc jockey.
Representing the blacks, every black person in Los Angeles. Just absolutely thrilled.
I don't know who you paid or who likes you over there, but for years,
I know.
I've been trying to get my hands on this video.
I know.
And I think it's been destroyed.
I agree.
I want it so bad.
I agree.
The technology has evolved. I don't think they kept a lot of the older tapes.
Yeah. And you know, because it'd be so much fun to remix you now like people do with your no, juxtaposed with a group being like, yeah.
And even the guy I was working with, who was a legend in this business, called me and said, man, they did a number on you, man. They just
got you.
Because they kept showing me, quizzically looking up, like, what? What? How is it possible? And I kept saying, no, it's a nightmare. It's not real.
Yeah, they're going to rerun it at 6 and 11.
Oh, they did. They ran it at 5, 6, 10, 11. The next day's noon, all of it. They had it for the weekend. They were like moments of the week, of course. This is before the term going viral was even a thing.
Yeah.
But the weekend anchors were like a low moment here in our community.
Did you stay inside for a few days, like, just working home just for fear of
of course.
people seeing you being like, that's the guy.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
no guy.
Absolutely. So that's why. So I told Kristen yesterday, I know what I was doing 29 years ago.
Yeah, if you mention like historical events, that's easier to put,
of course,
your own history in context.
But our friend Barry, this is how
he's in a different level.
He'll say to me on a random, August 10th, he'll say, well, I know what I was doing on this date in 1983. And you're like, what? And he goes, I drove a truck down to Macon and picked up some lumber and drove it back. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, how do you know that? I don't know.
He just does. He just does.
So his character is the person who remembers non-important events.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, it's not like, so what happened? I lost my keys. What?
This day 12 years ago, I had a cheesesteak.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
He's the person who remembers things that don't matter. He remembers where he was when he gave up dipping snuff.
To the day.
He's like.
And the day he started again.
Right. July 14th, 1996. I said, that's it with Skoll. December 1st, 2010. I picked it back up again. Really? Yeah, it's over at the Stop and Shop. I said, well, why did you go back to Skoll? I don't know. There was a can there. I just took it.
With a memory like that, he might be an asset to a jury.
Well, he's
he won't need to take notes. He just remembers.
Maybe he's on the Maybe he's the foreman of the jury. Could be. He probably should be. He won't give any. Any indication.
He's bound.
Mm-hmm. Can you not?
The judge gave them last Friday off, so he did pop in the office briefly.
So I said, "What's going on in the trial?" And he said, I can't discuss that." He's very professional, but I always felt like if I was ever on a jury like that, like on the day off, people say, "What's going on?" I say, "Man, you didn't hear from me, but this guy's guilty."
I don't think they realize if you ever made a jury how you would immediately ruin either side's case. I don't know which side because you couldn't wait to tell somebody.
Yeah, the DA and the defense would both be like, this guy is a walking mistrial.
You didn't hear it from me, but he did it. No question. It's like that. I just watched that Menendez brothers show. And incidentally, the guy who did that show, Ryan Murphy, he's saying the Menendez brothers are mad because of the way they're portrayed in the show. And Ryan Murphy was interviewed by People magazine. He said, they ought to be sending me flowers. This show has brought more attention to them than they've gotten in 30 years. And a group has said, let's get them out of prison.
And I think most people now feel mixed on the scenario.
Yeah.
I watched another episode yesterday, and Ryan Murphy does a great job of making you, 1 minute you really feel for the brothers, and you're like, this is horrible. And the next episode, they change it, and you feel you're watching the parents. I'm on the one where that's basically, you see how bad the parents, like the kids were just bad kids.
Awful.
Yeah. And the parents really did hate them, though, it seems, too.
So it seems. Yeah. But you never really know.
You never know.
The thing, basically what they came down to at the end was that they killed them for money. They had been cut out. They were going to be cut out of the will. They killed them before they could be cut out of the will. And then they went on a spending spree right after and lied about how, But, interestingly, that jury is shown in the last episode. You haven't gotten there yet, Biggie. But all it is, they found him guilty. So they were discussing. I don't know if this really happened or not, but I bet it did because this is very, it's a big detail to have been fabricated. They're back in the jury room and they're discussing death penalty or life in prison without parole. And one woman was very pro death penalty, and she stands up, and so, there's a woman in there that says, "I just can't do that. Be responsible for another person." And she goes, "Get your head out of your ass. These kids deserve to be strapped to a gurney." And she goes really crazy about it, and she has a heart attack in the middle of it.
Oh my God,
the juror. And
I'm sure that happened then because
you can't make that up. You wouldn't think. So then the alternate comes in, and he sides with the let's give them life in prison. I don't know if that's real, but it seems like it would be. I don't think they'd make something like that up. But so they wind up going life in prison.
Go ahead, Biggie.
I was going to say, anytime I what you call wiki watch or Google something from this show to see if it really happened, it does. So I guarantee you that is true because it's so wild.
Yeah. That's a lot to just stick in there, I would think. Yeah.
I had a thought going back a segment or so. You were talking about the O.J. Simpson, the verdict, the night you heard about the verdict it was in, and then the day it was announced on television. And you've said many, many times on this program that was one of the O.J. Simpson trial was what bonded you to your wife.
Correct.
Imagine how your life might have changed. You might not be sitting in the seat. You might not have the family you have now had O.J. been convicted. Because on your first date with your now wife, all you talked about was the OJ trial.
Correct.
Think about that.
I know. That's true. I was trying to show off a little bit and say that I knew dates, kind of like Barry does, of specific things. And I just said to her, we were sitting in a minor league baseball game on a blind date, and I said, I know the date that the O.J. Simpson verdict came in. And my wife said, well, me too, October 3rd, 1995. And I just looked at her and like, I couldn't believe it.
Here comes a young Jeter to the plate.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't. Yeah, Derek Jeter was in the game.
True.
And
as a rookie.
Yeah. It's like, whatever. And I said, are you serious? And she goes, yeah, I know that.
As serious as those pleats on your shorts.
Yeah. I still have those shorts. I can get back into them now. It's nice. I like that. So, yes, if not for that, if he had been found not guilty, I probably wouldn't have brought it up. Or, excuse me, if he had been found guilty, I probably wouldn't have brought that up. That was 29 years ago today. So I know exactly what I did 29 years ago today. And yesterday, hog calling over at the fair. I was doing the pig races at the fair. And I was great on play-by-play of that. Now,
does it matter?
No.
To the fairgoers?
No. In fact, the guy that runs the pig races, he goes into the trailer and about every 45 minutes comes out with 9 pigs, little piglets, puts them down, they race. And I don't even know if they're allowed to do that anymore to those poor animals.
I just had that thought, actually, as you were telling that story. I was like, I wonder if that's still even a thing.
Well, you don't hear them pushing it much.
No.
Now, they may still do it at some fairs, but they don't put it in the commercials.
No. And so my idea, so let's do play-by-play of this thing. And that's when PETA got involved and said, what kind of heartless monster wants to do play-by-play of these poor animals' plight running around in a circle? But the guy that came out of the trailer, I said, I'm doing play-by-play of this. He goes, why? What's your angle? What are you doing here? Mistrusting.
Did you have to show up in your radio station T-shirt and bluff your way past security?
Oh, yes,
I'm here for the pig race.
I did all that. Yeah, of course I did. I did every bit of
Somebody
that.
talks into a walkie-talkie.
He says he's here for the pig racer.
Yeah, that's right. Sure did. Sure.
Should I charge him admission?
No. I did not pay admission for that.
Talk to the pig man. Let me in.
I was on the way into that same fair, must have been probably a couple of years later, when the New York Yankees hit a home run and the Orioles player was going to catch the ball, and a young Jeffrey Mayer reached over and took the ball in a historic baseball play that now would probably be overturned after replay because it was clearly fan interference. And I was so mad because I hate the Yankees that I stormed into the fair and told the pig race man, have you seen what's happening in New York? And he's like,
injustice in the Bronx.
No. He didn't care about that one.
You get out there and you call them pig races.
Right. I was in no place.
You do exactly what I say. You called them pig races.
I was not in a mental...
Did you call them in a rage?
Yes, I was enraged.
Here comes Porky Pig. Who
I
cares?
just seen... Yes, I was enraged.
Here comes Petunia.
Absolutely. I was outraged by that going on, and so I was in no mental spot to call those pig races.
Did people bet, or was it just a spectacle?
Just a spectacle. Although I think it seems like I think they did bet, and you got a prize if your pig won, like a stuffed animal. I think you could put...
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You just pick, 1 through 10, whatever the pig was.
Well, because, when you go to a fair, the reason they can do all this is because it's a game of skill. Games of chance are different. You know what I mean?
Would this be, well, it's betting. That's betting. I can't remember if they did that or not.
But you're not doing anything.
You're not doing anything. You're just betting.
You're not shooting or tossing golf balls or basketballs.
It's like just calling the dog races, basically. Yeah. That's what Johnny Bench said that Pete Rose's favorite thing to do was on the road and at spring training.
Dog track.
Go to the dog track. Yeah, Pete Rose would go to the dog track at spring training in Florida all the time. And Johnny Bench. Also, I saw Johnny Bench on an interview yesterday, former guest on this program, clearing up that he and Pete Rose did not have a falling out. They always got along. People always thought they didn't get along, but that was not true. They were different types of people, but he said, I always supported him. He always had my back, too.
After, when Pete Rose died, you saw tons of posts about him on social media. And one, I didn't do any verification. In fact, the person who put it up, former colleague, used to work in this building ages ago, said that when... I can't remember which one it was. Johnny Bench or Pete Rose got married back in the old days. And the other one went on the honeymoon with the couple so they could play ping pong.
That sounds
Now,
like
that's unverified.
Yeah.
It's unverified.
That sounds
But,
like something Pete Rose
but it's
would
like,
to do.
one of them was there with his new wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to go play ping pong
with Johnny.
with Johnny.
Okay.
Yeah. They're so competitive. Pete Rose is
It's
so
like
competitive.
3 people on a honeymoon.
A lot of those athletes, Michael Jordan, I've heard this about John Elway, certainly Pete Rose. Any game they are must win, even if it's ping pong, board games. They must win those games. The last interviews Pete Rose gave about 4 weeks ago, he was asked about going into the Hall of Fame posthumously after he died.
Who got the interview?
I'm not even positive who got the interview. It's leaking today. Let me look here. They asked him about, it was a MLB Network podcast, and they asked him about going into the Hall of Fame posthumously.
I don't see much sense in putting me on the ballot after I die, because for a player to go into his or her Hall of Fame, it's more or less for your family and it's more or less for your fan base. And I'm big on both of those two things right there. And I know most of the people who rooted for me my whole career would love to see me in the Hall of Fame as a living player, not as someone that's 10 feet under.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're ever going to.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, even though it's getting a lot of but remember yesterday we were talking about how I am a mirror to whoever I'm talking to. Like,
yes.
The vice presidential debate was 2 nights ago, and I had a Republican friend say to me, "Was J.D. Vance great or what?" And I said, "Oh, you better believe it. That guy was a smooth
Pound as rock.
Right. And then later, a Kamala Harris supporter said to me, "Can you believe all the lies J.D. Vance was spewing last night?" I said,
Horrible.
Tell it, bro. That guy." So
It's a disgrace.
So yesterday, a pickle pal came up to me and said, this is early when I first got to play pickleball, I was just warming up, stretching. And a pickle pal said to me, "Can you believe that Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame after all the great he did on the field?" And I said, "It's a travesty. It's awful. He absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He needs to be in Cooperstown."
Somebody made all those hits.
Exactly. I said, somebody played on the exactly. So 2 hours later, this player now, my pickle pal, is a court away. He's not near me. And another pickle pal says, "There's no athlete I've ever hated more than Pete Rose. I would spit on his plaque if they put it in the Hall of Fame. Am I right?" And I was like, "So right, brother. You cannot let anybody in who bet on baseball. It's
the one rule."
So I said, he goes, "It's the one rule that you cannot break." I said, "That's exactly right.
Yep.
That's exactly right.
You're a human mirror.
You cannot break that rule." But I was looking over my shoulder at the previous.
Because you're also worried because you know what you've just done.
If he overhears me saying it, I'm in trouble. So I kept it real quiet. And I was like, we ain't letting him in the Hall of Fame. That's not happening.
Baseball.
Absolutely not.